We all set? Okay. My name's Sergeant Jeff Bassett. I'm the Press Information Officer with the Vallejo Police Department. The following is going to be a summary of what occurred last night and what we're currently doing.
Wait 1 second.
On May 28th, 2012, a two-man car was assigned to a DUI saturation patrol. Their primary goal was to locate and arrest those subjects who may be driving a motor vehicle while under the influence of alcohol. During the course of their shift, a few minutes after midnight, the officer saw a white Lexus in the area of Sonoma in Tennessee, exiting a business with the headlights off, traveling at a high rate of speed. As the two-man unit attempted to catch up to the vehicle, the officers observed the vehicle fail to stop for a stop sign. The officers activated their emergency equipment on their patrol vehicle, but the vehicle failed to yield, and during the course of the pursuit, failed to stop for an additional stop sign and also a red light. At one point, the vehicle struck a curb, flattening both the tires on the right side of the vehicle. The vehicle pursuit terminated at the rear of an apartment complex in the 200 block of Old Wilson Avenue. Both the driver and the front passenger immediately exited the vehicle and fled on foot. The driver, who has been identified as 42-year-old Anton Barrett, Sr. of Vallejo, fled west through a dark breezeway toward the front of the apartment complex. Additional officers responding for assistance were at the front of the complex. An officer on foot met Barrett in the dark breezeway. As they ran toward one another, the officer, a 7-year veteran of the Vallejo Police Department, ordered him to the ground, but Barrett failed to comply. Barrett reached into the right front pocket of his hooded sweatshirt and was removing his hand holding a black metal object. The officer, who believed the suspect was producing a handgun and fearing for his safety, fired his weapon multiple times, striking the subject. After falling to the ground, Barrett attempted to get up and was tased by one of the original pursuing officers in the DUI car who had just arrived on scene. The subject was then cuffed, and emergency medical aid was called for and provided by officers on the scene. Barrett was transported by ambulance to John Muir Medical Facility, where he was pronounced deceased at 5:34 a.m. this morning. The front passenger was located by additional officers hiding in the near the scene of the stop. He has been identified as Barrett's 18-year-old son, Anton Barrett Jr. He's been booked into the Fairfield County Jail at this time. Upon closer examination, it appears as if Barrett had a black metal wallet in his right front sweatshirt pocket. No weapons were located. A third passenger, who was in the back seat when the car stopped, fled on foot after the officers began chasing the Barretts. He has not been located, nor has he been identified. The shooting is being investigated by multiple agencies complying with the guidelines of the Solano County Fatal Incident Protocol. We are also conducting an internal review of the incident. The involved officer has been placed on paid administrative leave pending the results of the investigation. The decedent has a long arrest and conviction record dating back to 1985. He is a 5-time convicted felon and is currently on probation out of Napa County. That's all I have right now. Are there any questions?
Was the third
Yes, sir.
passenger, I'm sorry, was the third passenger, the one in the back seat, also a family member?
We don't know who he was. He fled. When the officers returned to the car, he was gone, so we don't know where he went or who he was.
Is Barrett Jr. cooperating with your investigation?
He has given a statement to the detectives.
So your officer basically mistook a wallet, a black wallet, for a possible handgun?
That appears to be the case. Any other questions?
Can you tell us do you know what the conditions were like at the time the two confronted? Were they in a dark area? Was this a well-lit area?
This is a breezeway that's about 30 or 40 feet long, about 10 feet wide, I think. It's really dark. We have some pictures that were taken near the time of the shooting that kind of depict how dark it was.
So Sergeant, these two officers, before all of this began, they were out looking for people who had been drinking a little bit too much and driving at the same time?
They were specifically assigned to a DUI saturation patrol, and that is their primary goal, is to locate drunk drivers and to arrest them.
And so when they saw them weaving and doing what they said, okay, these guys are obviously under the influence.
Well, they see a car leaving at a high rate of speed with its lights off, which is one of the things that you would expect a drunk driver might do.
But believe that Mr. Barrett Sr. may have been under the influence if he's charging at officers pulling out a wallet after the commands to throw your hands up?
Well, we don't know at this point. I imagine at some point in time there'll be a blood alcohol level that we'll know about. Right now we do not know the effects, if any, of alcohol on him.
You know how many times he was hit?
I can't comment on that right now.
We had this shooting, and a few days ago, another officer-involved shooting. There was the dog incident where a cop shot a dog. Obviously, these are individual incidents, but if you're a resident in this town, you might be thinking, what's going on? The cops are using their guns in there.
Well, I think there's a kind of a clump of incidents. Those are the only 3 shooting incidents that we've had this year. I think when you factor in how busy the city is, the crime rate, the amount of officers that we have on the street, that while that's a lot in a short period of time, that's the only ones we've had this year.
The shooting that happened, I believe it was on Friday, is there a similar situation where somebody pulled out an object that turned out not to be a real gun?
Well, in that situation, it was an object that appears to be a gun. It's only upon close examination that you would see that it's not a gun.
Sergeant, were other officers present when the shooting took place?
There were officers immediately in the area. I don't know if any officers actually saw the shooting. It was very quick.
You have 3 OISs this year, and how many at the same time last year?
I don't know if that. We had an officer that was killed in November. We would consider that an OIS as well. I would, just off the top of my head, probably in the neighborhood of 3 to 6.
So 3 to 6 at the same time?
I don't know for certain. I'm just guessing. Oh, at the same time, I don't know.
The officer was chasing Barrett, and at some point Barrett turns around and faces the officer?
No, Barrett was running through the breezeway westbound as the officer was running eastbound, so they were literally running at one another.
And then upon coming to face-to-face contact?
Yeah, it's a rather long breezeway. It's dark, but he could see that was the most likely the person that they were chasing. He was responding to the scene to assist in the capture of these guys that were fleeing on foot. They met in the breezeway. He ordered him to the ground, and Barrett evidently stuck his hand into his pocket, producing with this black metal object what the officer thought was a weapon.
And how far apart were they as they were running towards each other when the officer actually shot?
I don't have that information right now. The breezeway is probably 40 to 60 feet long, but I don't know what the distance was of the shooting.
Are you able to, have you seen it? Are you able to describe this black metal wallet? It sounds unusual. Black metal.
It's about the size and the shape of a wallet. It's I think I haven't seen it. I've just seen a picture of it. I think it's one of those things that metal on both sides. You pull it apart, and there's like an accordion feature inside where you keep business cards, those kinds of things. I believe that's what it is.
You say you had it in a pants pocket or in his sweatshirt?
It's in his sweatshirt pocket, the right front sweatshirt pocket.
The officer was injured from a police dog, right? What happened?
There was a canine officer that responded to the scene as well. He was searching for the other suspect, Barrett Jr. He was located in some bushes. At some point, I don't know the exact details, but the dog at some point ends up biting the handler. He sustained a minor injury that didn't require sutures.
What happened? He just freaked out.
I have no idea. I'm not sure if the dog got excited. It sometimes happens. Usually not with a handler. It's usually another officer, but it sometimes happens.
And Barrett Jr. is also bit?
I don't have that
They were
information.
both injured.
I don't have that information. I don't know.
What is your next step? Are you looking for information from the public, or what do you need to do?
Well, anybody that may have witnessed the shooting or the actions of the suspects prior to the shooting would be encouraged to come forward. We're obviously interested in what was happening before the shooting, what they were doing, what might have compelled him to run from the police when he was being pulled over. Was it suspended license? Was he driving under the influence? We don't know why he did that. Unfortunately, we'll probably never know that, at least from him. But maybe somebody can tell us about the actions prior to the shooting that might shed some light on that.
Sergeant, just an anomaly with the second officer involved shooting, or do you believe there's need for more training?
No, I think these things happen in an instant, in split seconds. And when you have poor lighting conditions, when officers are hypersensitive to the violence that's out there, and someone produces something from their hand when you would expect them to get down, and it's shiny and black, the officer does not have time to wait, have him pointed at it, discern if it's a weapon or not, a real weapon. At that time, it's too late. The guy would have had to already struck and hit the officer or missed before the officer fired. That's the movies, that's TV, that's not reality.
I believe you said you couldn't say how many times the officer fired at this point.
I can just say he's fired multiple times.
And the suspect was then able to get back up?
Yes.
And do you know where the suspect had been hit?
I don't know exactly where he was hit. He did receive a mortal wound, but I don't know where he was hit.
Is there any connection between Mr. Barrett and his son and the apartment complex?
I don't believe so, but I'm not certain of that.
Where's that apartment complex?
200 block of Old Wilson. It's in a cul-de-sac that used to go through many years ago.
And the third suspect you're looking for, also a teenage male or adult male?
We don't know. We have a limited description of the guy: a hooded sweatshirt, a hat. The officers keyed on the subjects that were fleeing the car. By the time they returned to the car, this subject had left and was not observed by any of the officers.
And that car was registered to Mr. Barrett Sr. or?
It's his car. I don't know if it was actually registered to him. I don't have that information, but it was his vehicle.
Can you talk about
Father had an extensive record. What about the son?
I don't. The son's only 18 years old, so I don't have his criminal history.
What's his record of?
I don't know. If it was, whatever record he might have would probably be, well, I'd be speculating, but if it was a record, it'd be juvenile, and we wouldn't comment on that anyway.
What about the elder? Anton Barrett Sr.
Yeah.
His record. You said he had felonies. What
Yes.
were they for?
They date back to 1985. He's got a felony evading. He's got some resisting arrest. There are some drug charges. He's currently on probation out of Napa County, I believe, for a suspended license charge. And as a juvenile, he was admitted to CYA on a manslaughter charge.
Can you talk about any additional training that the police officers have had since the traffic death officer?
We just underwent some firearms training and also arrest and control training, post-mandated training by the state. All our officers participated in that. They received 4-hour blocks in each of those areas. We do that at least in accordance with the state once every 2 years, and we also have our own training outside of that. Our officers just received training last month.
Any specific training into pursuing suspects on foot?
No, I mean, we did talk about the dangers of that and the fact that officers need to be aware that suspects might turn and ambush and not always just keep running, and that to be aware of their surroundings and sometimes going slow might be better. But it's a dangerous job. It's really easy after the fact to go, well, if only this happened, this or this might not have happened. Things happen really fast, and officers are required to make split-second decisions. Sometimes after the fact, when we look at all the facts, we tend to go, well, that doesn't make sense. But when you're talking about fractions of seconds, there's not a lot of time to assess. They have to react or put themselves or others in harm by not reacting.
Sergeant, what has this done to staffing with the previous officer-involved shooting and those officers out on administrative leave, protocol, and now these officers? Where are you all now with officers on the street?
Well, I think our minimum staffing levels are going to remain the same. We'll just have to, if we fall below those because of the 3 officers that are on admin leave right now, we'll just hire overtime to fill those vacancies.
Do you have any surveillance video of this incident?
I'm not aware of any video of this incident. Actually, there was somebody, I believe, of the apartment complex that has video of officers rendering first aid. I have not seen it.
And so, can you give us the spelling on your first and last name and your title?
Yes, Jeffbassett. I'm a sergeant, and I'm the press information officer.
Bassett or Bassett?
Bassett, not Bassett. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Were they from Vallejo?
Yes.